Why zombie deer disease is a biological nightmare? I have no idea what the fuck is a zombie deer thing. But yeah, let's watch it.
With chronic wasting disease is close to death, there are enough prions in its brain to kill every other deer in
I
North
didn't
America.
even know that
That single
deers
animal,
can be
wandering
zombies.
forest, drooling, stumbling, barely aware of its surroundings, is carrying a quantity of infectious material with no parallel in wildlife biology. And when it dies, those prions will enter the soil, they will persist there for at least 16 years, they will be absorbed
What the fuck? 16 years?
by the grass, and the next deer to graze on that ground will consume them. This is what chronic wasting disease does to a deer. It turns the animal into a biological weapon against its own species, and then it turns the landscape into one too. Now, I genuinely think I'm not overhyping this. Long before the deer shows a single symptom, it has been shedding infectious prions in its saliva, its urine, its feces, its blood, and the velvet of its antlers for 1 to 2 years. Every shared water source, every mineral lick, every nose-to-nose contact with another deer is a contamination event. The animal looks healthy, it moves with the herd. The result is indistinguishable from a slow, systematic poisoning of everything it touches. As of August 2025, this disease has been confirmed in 36 US states and 5 Canadian provinces. Experts believe it will be present in
Does the Japanese deer have that too?
all 48 contiguous states within the next decade. And at the same time, researchers confirmed something that changed the entire scientific picture of how CWD spreads, something that makes it even more deadly than we first believed. But to understand why that discovery matters, you first need to understand what CWD actually is, because what this disease does is so strange that for years, the scientists who proposed it were dismissed. That's because the mechanism violates a fundamental rule of biology, and that's part of what makes it so hard to stop. Chronic wasting disease is not caused by a bacterium. There's no virus, no DNA, no RNA, no living organism of any kind. The infectious agent is a protein. Every cell in a deer's body produces a protein called PRP. Under normal conditions, this protein folds into a specific three-dimensional shape, performs its function, and gets broken down. In a CWD-infected animal, some of those proteins have folded wrong. The structure is shifted from flexible coils into flat, rigid sheets. And that single change in shape makes the protein insoluble, invisible to the immune system, incapable of converting every healthy PRP molecule it contacts into a copy of itself. The process is silent and relentless.
So it's just a genetic failure? It's not like a actual disease? I mean, it's called a disease, but it's actually a bacteria or a virus? Because if it's not, how can you call that a disease? Like, I mean, yeah, it can still be a disease, but I mean, it's confusing.
And over months and years, the accumulating mass of malformed proteins destroys brain cells, leaving tissue riddled with holes, a sponge where a functioning brain used to be. The mechanism is so counterintuitive that many biologists spent years refusing to believe it. Biological information flows from DNA to RNA to protein, never from protein to protein. That is a central dogma of molecular biology, and prions break that rule. They are self-replicating molecules with no genetic material whatsoever. The immune system can't defend against them because it doesn't recognize the misfolded prion as foreign. It's a version of a protein the body itself produces, only bent into a shape that kills. So there's no fever, no inflammation, no alert. The body doesn't register the attack until the damage is already catastrophic. CWD is always fatal. No animal has ever recovered from it. There is no treatment, there is no vaccine, and a disease with a 100% fatality rate has managed to spread to more than 2/3 of the continental United States. Timing is the reason. The prions began accumulating in an infected deer's body, concentrating in nervous tissue, lymph nodes, muscles, and glands, long before the animal shows any sign of illness. During this preclinical window, which stretches from 1 to 2 years, the deer sheds infectious prions continuously. Think about what a deer does in a day. Grazes across hundreds of acres of shared ground, drinks from communal water sources, licks mineral deposits, makes physical contact with other deer repeatedly. In an infected animal, every one of those behaviors is the disease spreading, all while the animal looks fine. In the final weeks of life, the picture changes. The deer loses weight, its ribs and spine press against its hide, it stumbles, its head droops, it stares blankly at nothing. Excessive saliva drips from its mouth. It may walk in repetitive mechanical loops, stripped of its instincts, indifferent to predators and to people. The disease, by destroying the brain, has dismantled the animal along with everything that made it wary. But by the time any of that's visible, the deer has been contaminating its environment for more than a year, the prions are in the soil, and that's where the story becomes something that wildlife managers genuinely describe as unmanageable. Prions don't behave like biological pathogens once they leave a host. They bond to soil minerals with extraordinary tenacity and remain infectious indefinitely on any timescale relevant to wildlife management. Studies of
Jesus Christ,
scrappy, a
60
related
years.
prion disease in sheep, documented persistence in infected pastures for at least 16 years after the last infected animal was removed. Researchers left the fields fallow. They decontaminated structures and equipment, they waited, they reintroduced healthy animals, those animals got sick, the prions were still there. To destroy a prion requires sustained heat above 900 degrees Fahrenheit for several hours. Standard sterilization, heat, radiation, bleach, formalin.
90, oh my god, several hours. Jesus Christ.
Leaves them intact. There's no known procedure that can decontaminate a CWD-infected landscape. Basically, once a patch of ground is seeded, it stays seeded. In 2015, researchers at the University of Texas Health
Good night,
Science
Justice.
Center confirmed that grass plants, in laboratory studies, absorbed prions from contaminated soil through their roots and transported them into stems and leaves. The plants became carriers. A deer grazing on CWD-infected ground may be consuming infectious prions in its food, not through contact with a sick animal, not through shared water, but through the pasture itself. The entire landscape becomes part of the transmission system. This is what I mean when I say an infected deer is a biological weapon. Even after it dies and decomposes, the prions it carries persist, saturating the landscape long after every trace of the animal is gone. So how far has that saturation spread? CWD was first identified in captive mule deer at a Colorado research facility in 1967. The first wild deer with the disease was confirmed in 1981, and for 2 decades it appeared regional, a problem of the Rocky Mountain West. Then in 2002 it was detected in wild deer in Wisconsin and Illinois, a geographic leap eastward that signaled a new phase. In 2023, it was confirmed in Yellowstone National Park, home to thousands of elk, deer, and moose crossing an unfenced landscape in every direction. In 2024, it reached Washington state.
That's
By
so
August
crazy.
2025,
That's so crazy.
the CDC confirmed it across 36 states and 5 Canadian provinces, with no credible model showing
How
that
do you
number
stop
stabilizing.
that?
In Montana alone, CWD is now found in 33% of hunt districts across all susceptible species. In parts of Wyoming, mule deer herds have already collapsed. Mathematical models built on those population trajectories projected possible local extinction within 41 years. The only modeling scenario in which the population held stable was one in which CWD was entirely absent. The disease, in other words, has one known cure for wildlife populations, and that cure is the absence of the disease. In places where it's already established, that's not an option. Brian Richards, the CWD project leader at the USGS National Wildlife.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work because of birds. Birds are the worst, like the biggest, like vector of disease. Like they can easily grab some piece of a plant or something that is contaminated and carry with them to another whole place far away and spread that there as well. Also, like from water flowing from one place to another, like many kilometers away, carrying that as well. Like you really cannot skip that, in my opinion. You really cannot skip
Health
that.
Center described the situation bluntly. Where it's established, it's spreading and growing. We have a lot of
If it was just a disease that murders what gets infected, even if it is 100% like this one, it could be fixed by itself already just by the huge amount of animals that it would kill. So it wouldn't spread further and would disappear automatically, like what happens with a lot of diseases that we have throughout our history. But That's a whole different when that thing can stay on the soil on the ground for 16 years and it still contaminate like other animals. Like that's so freaking insane. There's no way you can get rid of this shit. You can.
Geographic areas
Oh
with
my god,
relatively
that's
recent
so insane.
detections, and we really do not have a very effective arsenal of tools with which to manage this disease.
Now, remember the recent study I mentioned at the top, the one that made the situation even worse? Well, here's what it found.
A team led by Dr. Candice Mathiasen of Colorado State University, publishing in the journal Scientific Reports, confirmed something researchers had suspected for 25 years, but had never documented in free-ranging wild deer. CWD can be transmitted in utero, from an infected doe to her unborn fawn before birth. Mathiasen first began pursuing this question in the year 2000. Her team detected infectious CWD prions in fetal tissue and at the maternal-fetal interface, the point where the mother's blood supply and the developing fawn's tissue make contact. During gestation, small lesions develop at that interface, and prion-laden blood crosses between them. The fawn is infected before it even draws breath. That fawn will look healthy. It will graze and roam and make contact with other deer, shedding prions, for a year or more before any sign of illness appears.
Even worse, the surveillance programs built around testing harvested adult deer are systematically missing these young animals. The populations these programs are monitoring are more infected than the data suggests.
Mathiasen described vertical transmission as, quote, yet another reason why this disease is so efficiently spread, and provides another modality that we've not really spent much time thinking about as a community. And separately, prions have now been detected in reproductive fluid and tissue in infected white-tailed deer bucks, raising the possibility that sexual contact constitutes an additional transmission route, one invisible to every surveillance framework in use before this discovery. The deer is a biological weapon against itself at every stage of its life. Before birth, through the years of asymptomatic shedding, in the final stages when its carcass seeds the soil, and through the grass that grows above it.
Which raises a question. Is this a wildlife story or something bigger? Here's what one state has already shown.
A hunter's license, a pickup truck full of gear, a tank of gas, 2 nights in a small town motel, the local processor who turns the deer into venison sausage. The economy built around deer hunting supports rural America in ways nothing else can replace, and it's built on the assumption that deer populations are stable.
Wisconsin demonstrated what happens when that assumption breaks.
When CWD was detected in wild deer in 2002, hunting permit demand dropped 5.4%. That decline, sustained over the following 13 years, translated to a loss of $96 million in hunter surplus and $17 million in license revenue from a single state. Surveys conducted since have found that up to 49% of hunters say they would stop hunting deer and elk if CWD prevalence in their region continues to rise. In a disease that is now confirmed in 36 states and expanding, this threat has moved beyond a hypothetical. It's likely to happen.
And yet the economic question, as serious as it is, may not be the most urgent one.
Every year, an estimated 7,000 to 15,000 Americans eat meat from a deer infected with chronic wasting disease. Those numbers come from the Alliance for Public Wildlife, and they're projected to grow by 20.
And how does this affect human beings? Like, it doesn't seem to transfer to us, right? At least not yet. Until some mutation happens, I don't know.
% annually as the disease spreads into new states and new deer population.
The meat looks normal. The deer look normal. And there's no tests that can be performed in a hunter's kitchen to determine whether the animal they harvested was carrying a fatal prion disease.
In April 2024,
because it's not a bacteria or a virus, it's just a protein.
Case report presented in the journal Neurology described 2 hunters from the same hunting lodge who died of Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, the human prion disease, after consuming venison from a deer population confirmed to carry CWD. Both men had eaten meat from the same source. Both developed the same fatal neurological condition. The researchers described.
Oh, wait. So you're telling me that these affect us as well? Oh, no, man. Oh, fuck no. Oh, hell no.
Described the cluster as, quote, suggestive of potential prion transmission from CWD-infected deer to humans, while acknowledging that causation remained unproven.
It's important to be precise about what that case report did and did not establish. Both men were diagnosed with sporadic Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, the spontaneous form of the human prion disease, which occurs in roughly 1 in a million people every year with no known cause.
The researchers themselves emphasized that no confirmed link to CWD had been demonstrated. The lead author later clarified that the presentation was not a full research study, but a case report, and that there remain no proven cases of CWD transmission to humans to date. The CDC also says no confirmed human case has been documented. That's true, but it's also incomplete.
Human prion diseases can incubate for 30, 40, 50 years before producing symptoms.
If American hunters started consuming infected venison at scale in the early 2000s, the first deaths from cross-species transmission, if it is occurring, would not show up in the mortality data until the 2030s or 2040s. Absence of evidence in this disease is not evidence of absence. This is the specific argument that Dr. Michael Osterholm, who directs the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota, has been making for years. Osterholm is the epidemiologist who warned British authorities about mad cow disease's risk to humans before that crisis fully emerged. In testimony to the Minnesota legislature in 2019, his words were precise. It is possible that human cases of chronic wasting disease associated with the consumption of contaminated meat will be documented in the years ahead. It is possible that the number of human cases will be substantial and will not be isolated events. He has described CWD as a slow-moving disaster and has warned that it could produce an American version of the BSE nightmare, bovine spongiform encephalopathy, the mad cow disease outbreak that crossed from cattle to humans through contaminated beef and killed 178 people in the United Kingdom, required the slaughter of millions of cattle, and cost billions of dollars to contain.
The prion mechanism in BSE was the same. The species barrier between cattle and humans was...
Yeah, you just forgot that the fucking thing stays 16 years on soil. So what you gonna do about that?
also considered meaningful before it suddenly wasn't.
What if the entire United States soil be contaminated? What you gonna do then? What is the solution? There will no, there is not gonna be safe place for a safe space for any deer at all.
CWD is present across the US. It's being consumed by tens of thousands of Americans, and the window between exposure and detectable illness in human prion disease is measured in decades. So what are wildlife managers actually doing, and is any of it working?
Targeted culling programs in high prevalence zones attempt to reduce deer density and slow transmission rates. Mandatory testing requirements are expanding. Movement restrictions on live deer and carcasses try to prevent hunters from carrying infected tissue across state lines, one of the primary mechanisms by which CWD has historically jumped from region to region. Surveillance programs are being redesigned to account for the newly confirmed transmission routes. Research into genetic resistance is underway. Some deer carry a variant of the prion protein gene that appears to slow, though not prevent, CWD progression. In the modeling of a Wyoming mule deer herd, selection pressure from the disease was projected to preserve a small remnant population carrying that resistant variant, even as the broader herd collapsed. It's a fragile hypothesis and a slow one, contingent on the disease not advancing faster than natural selection can respond.
Vaccine development faces a wall that basic
Oh
biology...
yeah, so they will keep breeding. Keep breeding those, and then among them, a few of them will be even more resistant, and they will select those, eliminate the others, and those among them. Some will get even more resistant, and they will keep doing that until they are totally resistant to this, right? Yeah. This always work, but it always takes time. It works for all types of animals, but it always takes too long to fix things.
has not provided a way around. The immune system...
God, I always remember the best example possible. We have human beings that are resistant to nuclear chemicals, I forgot which country is here in South America, and they drink water contaminated with this nuclear no, it's not nuclear, what, like radioactive, I'm sorry, radioactive. They consume radioactive water every single day their entire life, and they don't have problems with this radiation because their bodies are structured to that already. You know, they are mutated to not get diseases and problems from that water that they consume. But if you're gonna visit that country and drink from the water, you're probably gonna have cancer.
It doesn't see the misfolded prion as foreign because it's a variant of the protein the body itself makes. So there's no
So yeah, evolution is really something amazing. Like you really can be built to resist to a lot of stuff. Like it's really insane. It's freaking
no
insane.
antibody response to amplify, no pathogen surface to target, and decades of research have not produced a viable candidate.
The consensus among wildlife scientists is eradication of CWD is not achievable in areas where the disease is established. That environmental reservoir, prions in the soil, in the plants, and in the water, cannot be eliminated.
The only window for effective intervention is before a region reaches endemic levels, before the prions are woven into the landscape itself. In many parts of North America, that window closed years ago. In others, the newly detected areas, the recent expansions into the west and southeast, it could remain open for a short time.
The decisions made in the next decade by researchers, state wildlife agencies, federal policymakers, and the hunting community that funds most of American wildlife conservation will determine whether the deer populations of this continent survive the century in any
Bye-bye,
ecologically
Salbuba.
meaningful
Thank
form.
you for coming.
The disease is accelerating. The transmission routes are
Oh, thank you so
multiplying.
much,
The prions
Simon.
are in the
See,
soil of
thank you
36
very much.
states,
We'll give it
and in the late stage,
you guys are
infected
amazing.
deer
Thank you very much.
decomposing somewhere in a forest right now. There are enough prions to kill every deer in North America, and they'll still be there 16 years after the animal is gone.
Damn. How are we gonna get rid of that? That's kind of terrifying. And that pets treat humans? Wow. It's kind of terrifying. And it also targets our brains as well, like the D, for example. Real crazy. Real crazy. So yeah, the time to pray. Yeah, really, yes. Just want to remind you guys to join our Discord server. You can do that by hopping on the link tree that is on your screen right now, or typing discord.gg/Kitsune Mizuki and join our marvelous world of the foxlings. And yeah, I don't know why they say that. I mean, I'm really terrible at advertising myself. You can also support Fox through Patreon or Ko-Fi, or through the Kick link that it's also on the link tree page as well. Yeah. These are all the ways that you can support Fox. So just avoid Vtuber, but because they get almost the entirety of the money that you send to support Fox to themselves and to US government, and nothing is left to me. And they shadow ban me, so they are evil and they have to screw themselves. Before we go any further, I want to take this brief moment here to thank all of you, my patrons, for the incredible support to my work here on YouTube, and especially my 5-tailed fox tier member, the Holy Ball, and to all of my 3-tailed fox tier members, Wallony Wolf, Fanny Sylvie, Eat Himself, Chile Not Serious, Eustace the Useful, Zealous Isaiah, Ala Rosas, Max Tenor, Nugutino, Avery, Halcyonic Eder, and TV8. Thank you very, very much. You guys are amazing. Also, thanks to everyone that have been supporting me on Ko-Fi, Kick, and to all of my YouTube members. You can support this channel life and growth with just $5 a month and gain access to many perks. This is less than a burrito. Check out my Patreon. Link is in the description below. And that's it for today, my dear foxlings. See you guys in the next one. Bye bye.